Hello, and welcome to the Daring to Succeed podcast. I'm your host, Juliana Yao Jorgen, and today I'm joined by Corey Corpodian, a board certified orthodontist at 26 who went from being an orthodontist to running multi-million dollar practices to pursuing his true calling as an entrepreneur. Corey's story is rooted in reinvention, and we'll see why as we get through the episode. He's now the host of Unleash Success, a top 100 podcast featuring big names like Tom Bilyeu of Impact Theory. Corey now leads a thriving community of over 100,000 entrepreneurs and leaders across YouTube. He is also the author of Emotional Fitness, where he creates a workout plan for your mind and emotions. Because if you want to master the outer world, you have to master yourself first. Corey's passion is helping entrepreneurs who are struggling and those who want to amplify their brand by learning to communicate with power. Welcome to the podcast, Corey.
Thanks, Juliana. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, me too. And I am so excited to dive into our topic of how to build mental toughness and rewire for confidence. This is such a big one, especially for entrepreneurs who seem to be faced with every single thing under the sun every single day. I'd like to start by maybe hearing from you kind of where you came up with the concept of having like a workout plan for your mind and how that kind of relates back to building that mental toughness and that confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I first started out as a young kid, like many people probably listening to this, I wanted to be successful. And I was given a blueprint for this success. And that blueprint was given to me by my parents, who, was given to them by their parents and influenced by teachers and friends. And everybody's kind of given a blueprint for success that may lead to success and may not lead to success. Unfortunately, there are some blueprints that are really well known, right? And mine was just the traditional: go to school, work hard, go to college, get a good job, make money, retire, enjoy life. But I woke up at 26 years old after doing everything I was supposed to do, and I found out that I was miserable. And so I started to explore what can I do? And at first I went into physical fitness because I thought, hey, working out, changing my body, this feels good. And in that process, I go to the doctor one day and I had this mole on my chest and I knew it was kind of changing. I had taken years of anatomy and I was like, okay, yeah, let's do a biopsy. Sure. And they call me back a week later. They say, hey, we got to cut it out. I'm like, okay, yeah, no problem. I'm thinking they're just going to cut the mole out. They draw this giant circle around my chest. And I'm like, wait, what's going on? They're like, well, you have melanoma. Intellectually, I knew what that meant. But emotionally, I was like, wait, hold on. You're going to cut off a huge chunk of my chest. I'm in the middle of trying to get my pro card. I've got to work. I've got to work out. I've got to do all these things. My dermatologist looked at me and said, if you wait 6 months, you could lose half your chest. If you wait a year, you might not even be here. Melanoma is the most aggressive form of skin cancer. And that's why I always say is my memento mori, which means remember that one day you will die. Out of this moment, I decided I had to change something. I had to start living. So I went searching for answers. And I took the same approach I did to school, to sports, to becoming a board certified orthodontist, to competing on, men's physique stages, to my mind and emotions. I read books, I went to seminars, I talked to people, I practiced, and 6 months later, I met an amazing woman who now is my wife and mother of our 2 children. I doubled my income while working less, and I bought my $1 million dream beach house, which was a goal that I had set 6 months before. Everything changed. Everybody kept asking me, Corey, I've done what you do. I read the books. I went to the seminars. What is it that is different about what you're doing? Because I'm not getting the same results. I'm a very results-oriented person. And so after having 100 conversations with 100 different people, I realized what I do is I took physical fitness. I took exercises and I just started applying them in the mind. And this idea that we can rewire our brains is a very real thing that if you practice it daily, you will slowly achieve it. So if you want to be more confident in life, if you want to have mental toughness to be able to withstand what's going on in the world, it starts with first, what am I focusing on? Am I focusing on what's right in the world, or am I focusing on what's wrong in the world? Second thing is, what is this meaning that I give to this? Does this mean that I'm going to always be challenged and I'm never going to be good enough and I'm going to lose? Or does this mean that, the juice is worth the squeeze? I just got to work a little harder to get by my goal. And finally, what action do you take? And so I started sharing this, and there's a ton of other stuff that I go into in my book, Emotional Fitness, to really break down what avoiding self-sabotage and burnout and how to be confident and how to understand how emotions drive us towards or away from our goals. But I realized at 26, 27 years old that what I had done for my entire life to get to this point wasn't going to get me to where I wanted to go for the rest of my life. And I made a decision that, I realized emotional fitness changed my life and I wanted to empower other people. I believe the world needs more leaders. Now I've got 2 young children. Now more than ever, we need better leaders, right? There's too many videos on YouTube and social media that people are just, I apologize, but they're saying bullshit, right? And it's garbage. And I sit there and I think, who gave this person a mic? And just because they have a mic and a fancy video screen and everything, people are listening to it. And then they'll send me messages. Oh, what do you think about this? I'm like, time out. That's not even true. And so I'm out here, trying to spread the word of emotional fitness. The ideas of emotional fitness are built on the psychology and practices over the last 100 years. I just combined it in a way that was unique to me, where I believe that we can build into our strongest self. I've always said, out of my greatest pain came my greatest strength. So no matter where you are at in life, whether you're kind of middle of the road, trying to get to achieve more, you're a high achiever trying to change your life and make it even better, or you're way down in the dumps, emotional fitness can help you and build the life that you want to live.
Yeah, it's such a compelling story. And shockingly enough, you're not the first guest I've had who's had like a near death experience that completely changed their lives. So that's just so powerful. But I know not all of our listeners need to have such a profound moment to kind of feel that same thing that you did at 26, where it's not really the life you wanted to lead anymore. Um, and the thing I find interesting about your concept of mental fitness is, even though you mainly support entrepreneurs, I can see the application of that just to anyone out there who wants to improve themselves and make a better life for themselves.
Absolutely. I mean, when I originally wrote the book, it was for everybody and for me. Like, I wrote it as a manual of I need to go back to it and read, and I need to do this exercise, and I need to remind myself to do this. I do these exercises daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, and it's for everybody, because ultimately I wanted to find what was going to lead me to success in every area of life, not just financially, but in relationships, in my body as well, in my ability to experience joy and happiness. How do I get better at that? And mastering our mind, mastering ourselves, open up an entire world where we can accomplish anything.
Yeah, and I think it's such a cool concept to have it written for yourself as well, because it shows the power of having something sort of codified and that you can refer back to so that you're not straying too far from those best practices.
Exactly. And one of the things it's crazy. People are like, well, why do you have to keep doing it? Emotional fitness it's an exercise, it's a practice. If I go to the gym every single day for 6 months, I'm going to get in great shape. And all of a sudden, if I decide to stop in 6 months, I'm going to be in bad shape, right? It's not like you just work out for 6 months and you're fit for life. Same thing mentally. And why? It's because we're hardwired in a certain way. And that way is, as human beings, we're hardwired to avoid pain and move towards pleasure. The problem is we're 2/3 more likely to move away from pain than we are towards pleasure. And so because of that, we're always looking for ways to survive. Right? The species wants to survive. So you're always like, well, I got to avoid this trap and avoid that. And, if I associate in my head things like working out is painful, because in the beginning it is, but chocolate cake feels really good, then of course, like I'm going to choose chocolate cake. But if you eat chocolate cake every day for your entire life, you're slowly dying of diabetes and heart failure. And that's the problem, is how we associate our brain. Human beings have this incredible ability to change and reframe our associations with other things. So what you focus on, do I focus on the pain of working out, or do I focus on the feeling I get afterwards? People talk about the runner's high and how addictive it is. Do you focus on that, or do you focus on the pain of running? What you focus on will dictate what it means to you. And like I said, I'm a big believer in action. So these are 3 decisions you make every day. The problem is a lot of people will react in a moment in a negative way that is disempowering, that doesn't serve their goals. And eventually they just kind of give up and they choose distraction, like Netflix or social media, going out with friends, as opposed to action towards their goals. Why? Because distraction's easier. It makes you feel good in the moment. But we need to delay that gratification and understand that short-term pain can lead to long-term gain.
Yeah, and as you were saying that, I was going to bring us exactly there about the delayed gratification, where especially with all of the distractions we have now and being able to buy anything and it shows up in 10 minutes, it seems like we're going down a really dangerous path, like as a collective humanity, that we're constantly seeking these little ways to kind of keep things okay, but like you said, not investing long term in that big outcome that we want, or even just maintaining it. Because, like you said, if we get there and we stop practicing all of these good behaviors, it's so easy to backslide back into the bad behaviors and either framing things or taking actions that don't actually give us the life that we want.
100%. I'll give you something that I find a lot of people, I think the worst place you could be is actually in just okay, in the sea of mediocrity, right? You're doing great. Typically, people are doing great. They want to do more greatness, right? They want to do more great things. They want to keep going and they want to keep growing and building their businesses. They're having fun doing it. People who are not doing great are like, I got to get out of here. Like, I got to do whatever I can to change my life because it's so painful. But people stuck in the middle, they're like, well, my life's not that bad, you know? It's pretty good. I should be grateful for everything I have. And I'm not saying you shouldn't be grateful, but sometimes if you sit in your comfort zone for too long, what happens is 5 years go by and you wake up going, what happened? I had all these dreams and goals and aspirations and I didn't do any of them because you were afraid. And people don't always say afraid. Sometimes they'll use the word like I'm too busy, right? To go after your goals, to really take action and change your life. What's crazy is parents will tell kids not to try too hard or not to reach for something too far away out of their reach because they don't want them to be hurt when they get disappointed and don't achieve it. But I believe that failure can be that learning point, can teach you what do you need to do to get better, to actually achieve that goal. We all fail all the time at everything. It's part of life. How do you frame failure, though? Is it the end or is it the beginning? And when I interview entrepreneurs who have built million and even billion-dollar companies like Tom Bilyeu, billion-dollar Quest Nutrition, Monty Moran, who helped grow Chipotle, and Chipotle is way more valuation now, but he grew it to 30 billion, from like 50 stores to 1,000 stores. These people have the ability to grow and change things and reframe the situation to be something that's positive, to make it worthwhile to go after. And so what are you focusing on every day? And sometimes people look at their life and they don't see any opportunity because they're not focused on it. They're like, why can't I make more money? Why can't anybody love me? Why can't I find a job? Why can't I accomplish my goals? Why can't I lose weight? These questions that you're asking in your head, emotional fitness teaches you to ask better, more empowering questions. Questions like, how can I make more money? Questions like, what can I do today to help achieve my goals? If I want to lose weight, what can I do today to lose weight? Well, maybe I can go to work out. It helps you build habits. Right now, in the beginning, if you're trying to change anything in your life, it's going to take a lot of energy and time. But if you build a habit, you do it automatically without thinking about it. And so these things are what my goal is with emotional fitness is to get people to rewire their brain so that they can confidently go after their goals.
Yeah, and I really love the idea of asking better questions, because those questions of why am I not making more money, or why am I not whatever, um, I see a lot with my coaching clients as well, where it kind of puts them in that mindset of almost trying to rationalize why they're in the state that they are, instead of asking those better questions like you had with, how do I make more money? How do I get a better life? What can I do? Which puts them in a frame of mind where they're actually in a problem solving mindset, not a rationalization mindset.
And the issue is when you ask, why can't I get something? Your brain's going to give you an answer. And it might not be an answer that's going to help you. Like, why can't I ever get this right? Oh, because you're dumb. Or my dad always said I'm dumb and he was right. Right? Like, people have these stories that they tell themselves all the time. You can choose to tell yourself an empowering story, or you can choose to tell yourself a disempowering one. What you do is going to dictate your life. These little daily habits, these mental exercises can change your life over time to where in 6 months, nobody will even recognize you.
Yeah, and those stories we tell ourselves are so compelling, because I find when we repeat them over and over again, they become fact in our minds, where they really are just stories, right? They're not necessarily the pure facts of what's going on, and it can really skew how we're seeing the world and how we're responding to it.
100%. And I want to give you and your audience something about rewiring for confidence because people are like, I've heard of affirmations, right? If I sit in this mirror and I say, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy, it doesn't work unless you start to believe it. So how do you start to change it? How do you really get the results you want to do? I think first, okay, 3 steps. First, you got to change your state, your physical state. Okay. The reason is because when, in the way I draw it out as a map is our minds focus on something and then we create a meaning and then we react or take an action to it. But the interesting thing about biology in our mind is it's a two-way street. So if your body is running full speed at a sprint, you're not thinking about how sad you are on Tuesday. You're like, I'm just trying to breathe. Change your body, change your state. Do something that's very physically active. And what's going to happen is your brain's going to start to ask better questions. It's going to start to think differently because our biochemistry's changed. So there's a study by Amy Cuddy, who's a Harvard psychologist, called power posing. I have people do this all the time, where just standing like Superman or Wonder Woman for 2 minutes will increase testosterone, decrease the stress hormone cortisol, and make people a third more likely to go after their goals. If you want to rewire for confidence, move your body, do a power pose, ask empowering questions. Right now, all of a sudden, you've changed your state, you feel good, you're running. So your physiology is changing the way you think. Now you're asking better questions. How can I accomplish this? What can I do to accomplish this? You're in a problem solving mind state. And the third thing that I believe people need to do to become more confident in what they're doing is to consistently take action and do hard things. I know that sounds super simple, but that's the hardest part for most people. Most people who are successful There are definitely super geniuses, but a lot of people I've interviewed who are super successful have just done the work for decades, just spent 10 years building, and now it looks like they're an overnight success. A story about Tom Bilyeu from Impact Theory. He told me how when they were building Impact Theory, a toilet clogged and there was literal human feces coming out of the toilet. And as one of the, co-founders, he wanted to be the one to do it. Somebody wouldn't do it. So he's like, you know what? I'll do it. Put some gloves on. I'm going to go clean that. So when everybody questions my dedication, they know I'm willing to literally clean up human shit for this company. And that's a difference maker, right? So that's not an easy thing to do. Nobody wants to do that. Force yourself to do hard things consistently, and you'll build the confidence that says, I'm capable and able and willing to do this right here and right now. And that builds confidence over time.
Yeah, and I mean, we hear that all the time where people seem like overnight success, but they put in years and years of work that nobody has ever seen or just gets glossed over when they tell their, or actually when other people tell their story now because it sounds more amazing. But I think it's a good reminder for everyone out there who's listening that hard work is how you're going to get the success that you want. There aren't shortcuts. Listening to all those YouTube videos with these self-proclaimed experts aren't going to get you there because, I mean, you've tried them and it's not getting you there. So,
Right.
Corey, I love those 3 points that you gave people because I actually talk about a lot about the same things, but I love how you've sort of given it a different perspective because my approach is more sort of um, psychologically methodical, where yours is rooted in like physicality, which is so important.
Both have their place. We have to do both. And it's
Totally.
just one of those things that sometimes I used to get people, Corey, how did you change? What was different? Right. And I merged the two, and that was the game changer for me. And I find that when people do that, it takes them out of the poor me mentality and puts them into a place where there is opportunity. And I'll leave this to your audience too. Yes, it sometimes looks like people are lucky, but I believe luck is when preparation meets opportunity. If you've been preparing for years, working hard, staying disciplined, all of a sudden when that opportunity arises, you'll be ready to take it. You'll be ready to succeed. And everybody will look at you and go, you're so lucky. And you're like, no, I worked so hard for this.
And I think that is a huge distinction because you can tell the people who have put in all those years of effort because when somebody does say that they're lucky, they're the first to correct them because they want that credit for all of that hard work and toilet scrubbing and everything they've done to get to where they are.
That's right.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much for everything here. I know my listeners will get so much out of this. I love that there's a different way they can kind of apply the same concepts that we both kind of have as a foundation, because everybody needs a slightly different approach to make it work for them. So for our listeners out there who really want to grab a copy of your book, connect with you, and hear more about your specific approach, where can they find you? Where can they find your book?
Yeah. So YouTube and Instagram at Corey Corpodian. If you want to find the book, it's on Amazon and Audible. You can just go to masteremotionalfitness.com and it'll drive you right there. And then, of course, go to my website, unleashsuccess.com, and you can join the newsletter there. So that way you can kind of stay up to date with the podcast releases and any new information we have.
Awesome. I'll be sure to have all of those links in the show notes for everyone. Well,
Awesome. Really appreciate it.
yeah. Thanks again so much for being on the podcast, Corey.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll see you next time.